And with the big spotlight on Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple and the big tech company's big India plans on the back of the first store opening in the country, I'm joined now by Minister Rajeev Chandrasekhar. He's Minister of State for Electronics and Information Technology and one of the few government leaders that Tim Cook will be meeting on other than the Prime Minister himself. Minister Chandrasekhar, a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time here on India Today. My first question to you, sir, is Tim Cook. You know, lots of media hoopla, very understandable because, you know, Apple is a company that commands a huge cult following all over the world. Many people have been waiting for this store for a very long time. You're going to be meeting Tim Cook tomorrow. Give us a little insight into what that meeting is going to be about.
No, I obviously, look, Tim Cook's arrival here and visit to India is an important thing at many levels, including the fact that one of the world's largest corporation, the CEO of one of the largest corporations of the world is visiting India, not just to open a store, but to explore the expansion of the Apple-India partnership. And as you know, Shiv, the Apple, along with Samsung, the two real global brands that have made India its home over the last few years, are not just making India its home, but making India a very significant part of their these changing global value chains or supply chains, which are going through sort of a redrawing post-COVID. And India, which is just 9 years ago, which was an insignificant player in electronics manufacturing, is now becoming a leading source for Apple made in India manufactured Apple products for export to the world, to consumers all around the world. So I am hopeful that Mr. Cook's visit to India will further strengthen, further expand the Apple presence in India, in manufacturing, in design and engineering, and the whole ecosystem that the Apple brand represents. It is a significant opportunity for India and Indian startups and Indian manufacturing in particular. And I'm hopeful that this visit will give him the confidence to make India really a strong partner for Apple's global ambitions and global value chains.
Should we be expecting anything specific, from meetings with government tomorrow? Because we do know that Apple wants to do a whole lot more. What is the government expecting the next big step by Apple to be?
No, I don't think we will look at the Apple-India relationships as some sort of a digital big aha moment or a wow moment, Shiv. I think this is a relationship that has significantly expanded over the last few years. You know, the numbers are, the Apple exports from India are doubling every year. And you know that the Prime Minister has set a target of $300 billion of electronics manufacturing by 2026-27, of which $120 billion will be exports. And this year alone, we will cross $10 billion of exports of smartphones as a category alone. And so therefore, I think we are well poised to look at this opportunity that is in front of India and Indian enterprises and Indian states. Of really becoming embedded into Apple's global supply chains in a very significant manner. And I am, assuming and hoping, and of course it is also as a safe assumption that these visits go a long way to showing Apple's leadership. The big difference and the big progress India has made in the last 4 or 5 years, because there was always this perception about India 10 years ago about being a difficult country to invest in and do business in. And after the Prime Minister has made the focus on ease of doing business, the biggest investors and the largest enterprises around the world are making a beeline for India, making investments and manufacturing from India. And that in turn for India represents jobs, opportunities, growth, all of that.
I wanted to ask you specifically about that, Minister, because the very compelling images coming out, from Mumbai of that first store opening are also a reminder that about a decade ago, Apple wasn't really looking at India. I think there was this famous quote about India not being considered a strategic market. But all of that has dramatically changed in the last 7-8 years. How did that happen?
I use this example whenever people ask me about how much has India changed. I use a simple example of the smartphone category.
Yeah.
In 2014, Shiv, about 82-83% of all mobile phones consumed in India were imported, and we were exporting zero. We are in 2022, 2023, almost 100% of the mobile phones consumed in India are assembled in India
Yeah.
or manufactured in India, and we are becoming a significant exporter of the same category. As a matter of fact, next year, mobile phone exports will be crossing textile exports and will be amongst the top 8 or 9 exports from India.
Amazing.
So I think
Yeah.
that the travel of India, the travel of the Indian manufacturing sector over the last 8-9 years has been very, very significant. And the fact that most of Apple's ecosystem of manufacturers, the Wistrons, the Pegatrons, the Foxcons, all have set up large plants in India, have provided employment, investment and
Yes.
employment for lakhs of Indians, is a signal to Apple that India is not just ready to play in the big league, but in the big Apple league. And Apple for India represents manufacturing, it represents app innovation, it represents the whole hardware space as well. So Apple represents for India and India represents for Apple, I believe, a very significant win-win opportunity for the India-Apple partnership.
Very true, Minister. And I wanted to, ask you specifically about the whole, the comparisons are frequently made with China. When it comes to Apple's manufacturing, at this time there is no comparison. A vastly more, measure of manufacturing is taking place in China. But there has been a visible movement of some of that work towards India. Do you see more of that happening in the years ahead?
Oh, absolutely. I think, notwithstanding China's performance over the last 3 decades, and there is certainly an awakening up of the world. I'm not talking in particular about Apple, but to the world of manufacturing in general,
Yes.
that this concentration in one geography was never a great idea. It ended up like that for issues of costs and global trade and all of that. But I think the world has woken up to the need to have much more diversified, much more trusted global supply chains. And that is an opportunity for which India is very well prepared. Over the last 6-7 years, the confidence and the capability in manufacturing, many states also stepping up in partnership with the government of India and creating ecosystems that are very, very amenable and friendly for manufacturing investment, have all signaled to the Apples and the Samsungs and indeed all manufacturing companies that India is a very viable, very friendly, easy place to invest in, manufacture and export to the world. So I think that story is increasingly getting a lot of traction. And I'm not saying India does not have competition. Vietnam is a competitor, other countries are competitors.
Yes.
But certainly we are we're all hands on deck, and we want to be a major player. And as the Prime Minister has laid the target for us of 300 billion by 26-27, we are certainly working very hard to ensure that we meet those targets.
And this does send out a very big message, does it not, Minister? That, Apple, after all these years, many hurdles crossed, has finally put its foot in the door, has committed, a lot of resources in India. This sends out a message to industry, and this could have a spillover effect with more, big tech and more manufacturers making their way into India.
Oh, absolutely. In the world of technology, Shiv, there's absolutely no doubt, even amongst the volatility that we see amongst the big tech companies of the world, that Apple is really, in a sense, the pole star. It is a company that is setting standards in many, many areas, in privacy, in terms of innovation, in terms of performance, in terms of designing devices for the next generation,
Absolutely.
the brand itself. So I think in a lot of ways, it does represent one of the leading brands in the tech space. It is certainly one of the harbingers of the future of technology, if you want to call it that. I may be getting a little bit flowery with my prose to describe Apple, but it is certainly, without any doubt, one of the leading tech beacons. So I think the fact that they choose to partner with India, and that India can partner with them, and India offers a market and consumers and innovators to them, is, in my opinion, good for the world, good for India certainly, and good for Apple.
One final question, Minister. You've literally seen this industry inside out. As an entrepreneur, as a businessman, and now as minister. So, you've had an unusually wide-ranging perspective of this sector. In your view, and that's my final question, do you have a gut feeling that we are on the threshold of something really big here?
Oh, absolutely, Shiv. We have all as Indians gone through those days when Nokia with the large plant in Chennai had to shut shop and run away from the country. And it sent such a signal to the rest of the world about the difficulties of doing business in India. This is just 8, 9, 10 years ago, just a decade ago. And now to come full circle, to be at a situation and to be so honored and privileged to be participating in the fact that these global brands are looking at India, making India its home, making these large investments, creating products for the world's consumers from India, giving lakhs of Indians an opportunity to work and creating jobs here. I think this is really unprecedented in so many ways for me personally, and I think anybody who's been a spectator or a participant in this electronics industry. So it is without overstating it. Certainly, we are living in extremely interesting times, and the future bodes very well for. I mean, the future of electronics is, in my opinion, is very bright indeed for India.
Well, we certainly look forward to all the exciting things in this sector that lie ahead. Minister Chandrasekhar, thanks very much for being with us. Have a great meeting with Tim Cook tomorrow, and we'll connect with you once again. Thanks so much for being with us here on India Today.
Thank you, Shiv.